Welcome back to the Hill of Roses, where we come once again to celebrate the best contributors to our independent policy movement for progress to bring power to people like you. With us on the program today, we got to talk to Mia Rose. Mia Rose is an adult entertainer, and so we got to talk a little bit about the sex work industry. What does economic empowerment for women look like? And, we have this commonality that let us meet in the first place, which is we're both big supporters of Andrew Yang. So, in the second part of our conversation today, we get to talk a lot about, what drove her to come to support Andrew Yang and what the movement can be doing going forward to best grow our support for these policies as well as the man himself. I really enjoyed getting to talk to Mia. I know all of you will enjoy listening as well. So, with that being said, let's get into it. Okay, we are here with Mia Rose. Mia, I want to welcome you to the Hill of Roses. It's a pleasure to be able to have you on.
Thank you. Likewise.
Yeah, Mia, I really wanted to have this conversation with you today for a variety of factors. Obviously, we got to connect because you were also a member of the Yang Gang. But before, talking about the Yang Gang, one of the big things I wanted to talk to you about is, you work as an adult entertainer, and I'd love to talk about some issues that kind of surround that area, particularly sex work, as well as, just how women can be economically empowered. And I wanted to hear from you, how do you view the current status of, sex work in general? Do you feel like society is, gradually accepting it more? Do you feel like it still has taboos? Like, how do you
I
feel
don't
about
think
the general
that
state
sex
of it?
work will ever be accepted. It's just the way that people are brought up. And I guess I get it. It's not morally right in most people's books. But I mean if you are comfortable with it, I don't feel like it should be degrading, and it hasn't ever been for me.
Yeah, no, I mean, I wholeheartedly agree with you. I don't personally see the reason why it should be negatively viewed. Like, how have you tried to broach that conversation with others? Like, I assume like you have a mostly like tolerant friend group who loves this idea, but like how have you been trying to interact with people in regards to that? Do you feel like it's something you can kind of proudly state this is what you're doing, or how do you feel about
Absolutely is. Yeah, I've been very open about what I do ever since the day I started, and I mean it's been. Don't get me wrong. There's been a lot of flack, a lot of hate from certain people. Um, like on Twitch, there was a ton of hate for what I used to do, and had retired and became a gamer in 2011, and I came back to adult like in December of last year. Um, People
so?
were just really hateful. They were just really, really hateful all the time.
Was there any particular reasons they were acting so cruelly beyond, like, in my perception, it definitely roots in misogyny to some level. Was there any reasons you felt like they were acting this way other than just the internet being the main method of communication?
That's a fucked up thing, right?
Yeah.
The internet is the way they can hide behind their screens and they can say what they want to without having any repercussions. So that's what they do, and you have to have really thick skin if you're going to get on social media because they will just rip you apart.
Yeah, and I'd love to just, pry a little bit further. You said you had left it at one point and then came back to it. What inspired both of those transitions?
Um, It was actually just a money move, as far as, like, I wasn't doing as many movies, so I was playing video games a lot, and I figured might as well make money from it since I'm doing it anyways, and I did that for many years, and I just got really burnt out, and, got really burnt out, and then I decided to come back because adult is always gonna be there, and it's always gonna and I don't have forever in it, right? You have a shelf life, everyone does. So, yeah. OnlyFans was like the biggest thing. It was like Twitch in 2011. OnlyFans is like the new Twitch.
Yeah, I'd love to ask a little bit about that. Like, I think a lot of these mediums are trying to make it so that you can kind of be like direct to consumer. But there's been like certain regulations that have happened, like Sesta Fosta, that has made, sex work a little bit more difficult online. Do you feel like it's a protected, safe environment that like helps the women who are participating? Do you think OnlyFans does a good job with the workers they have?
As far as I know. I mean, they've done good by my book. I can't speak for anybody else because I don't know what their interactions have been like. But me personally, I really enjoy how OnlyFans works. I'm in charge of everything. I own all my content. I can make money off my content for as long as I'm on their site. Like they take a pretty fair amount, and they're really helpful if you need them. I love the site.
So I have to ask, I think it was around a little less than a month ago, there was this big controversy surrounding OnlyFans with Bella Thorne, who had,
Ugh.
registered for the platform. I wanted to hear, what your opinion is about, like, this was previously not like super commercialized where you had superstars, particularly on the platform. Like, how do you feel that incident played out? Do you think it was mainly Bella's fault? Do you think
No,
OnlyFans
mm,
overreacted?
I feel like no, they didn't overreact. It was a lot of incoming money, and she scammed people. At first, I was like, "Why you guys gonna hate on her?" It's like anyone's free to use this site. Doesn't matter if they're a celebrity or not. So you can't hate on someone else for making money. Like it just happened to be $2 million. Um, but the part that's gets a little screwy is where she promises one thing, promises nudes, promises these things to people, sells them for $200 each, and then doesn't provide what she's selling, and people get chargebacks, and therefore OnlyFans was they got so many chargebacks that they had to do something because I mean that's just it's a lot of money to come and go. So I mean I really do not like that woman. I don't know her and I don't want to know her. I don't want to know that type of person. And she gave OnlyFans like a really bad name, and now we have lower amounts of money people can tip us because of her. It's like, well, I'm really glad you got your 2 million, lady, but we're
Yeah.
actually working here, and now I get way less tips, and I've seen the impact of what she did already this month.
Yeah, I think this also kind of gets back to the, this at the end of the day for a lot of people, like you admitted earlier, it's a money move for them. And so for someone who did not need this money to come in and scam people and cause everyone else to lose their bottom line is really reprehensible. I'd love to just, ask in your opinion, like, do you think that if we had, some baseline economic security in place, a lot of people would continue to try and like be able to work in this industry? For example, I know, as I alluded to earlier, you're a supporter of Andrew Yang, probably because there's some aspects to the universal basic income being able to help people like yourselves and others. Do you think a lot of women would continue working in that field? Or like, what proportion do you think is just there solely because it makes money and it can pay their bills?
I'm sorry, my sister was being extremely loud, and I didn't catch that last part. What was that?
Yeah,
I'm
no
sorry.
problem. Let me repeat that. I wanted to ask you, if there was something like a universal basic income in place,
Oh,
do you think, like, what proportion of women do you think would not be working in sex work? Do you have like a general
I
anecdotal
don't
feel?
actually know the answer to that, but I do know that $1,000 a month would help literally everyone, and not just a generalized like group. I feel like it will help women, it will help men, it'll help everybody.
I 100% agree with you. I'm a big universal basic income advocate. And I'd love to just talk to you about, like, the second part of which I described beforehand of this topic is women's empowerment. Obviously, there's a lot of flexibility in being able to do this work. And now with these platforms like OnlyFans, you can kind of set your own terms of working. You know, what do you think is that role of female empowerment in terms of sex work? Because I think, the argument that a lot of people who say that they're against sex work is that it destroys these like institutions like marriage and
Hmm.
this very monogamous type culture. Do you feel like sex work is an empowering field for women?
I mean, for some people it can be, yeah. I don't feel like it's any. I don't feel like it's degrading. I don't know if I would say it's empowering. I used to feel that, but now I see how much hate there is from it, and it really just kind of sucks the life out of you for a while. So I don't know. I don't know if it's empowering, but it definitely feels good to be able to make your own hours, to set your own rules, what you do, what you don't feel comfortable doing. What I don't do anything on my OnlyFans that I don't do at home. I don't do anything that's crazy. If I'm not comfortable with it, I'm not going to do it.
I think
So,
that's very true. You get a lot of choice in the certain lines you're going to set. It's not like someone's dictating work to you. You get to kind of set your own terms.
although I do know, I do know some people that definitely go outside, but that's like it's a rush for them sometimes. So I mean, can't knock it till you try it, I guess.
Yeah. I'd love to just kind of go a level deeper, like in terms of the actual help for that community. I think I've had this debate on the program previously between, trying to legalize sex work beyond stuff like OnlyFans, which kind of falls into pornography, and decriminalizing versus keeping illegal. Do you have any opinions on that? Obviously, you're an entertainer. You're not doing anything illegal. Do you have
No, but
anything?
people
Yeah.
have a lot of stigma towards adult entertainment workers. They believe that like porn is why there's pedophiles. It's like that's not even the case like at all. I mean, look at Jeffrey Epstein. He was a completely normal guy. Nowhere and that was some really serious stuff. I've never actually seen anything legal in adult ever. Not once in my entire career.
Yeah, and I guess the last thing I'd love to ask in this section, before we come back in our second section and talk more about like the Yang Gang and how you came to that, I'd love to hear, in your opinion, do you think there's any regulation that needs to be happening with the porn industry at all? Because I think this is something where, anecdotally, I certainly know you're having people that are under 18 constantly still use the site despite acknowledging that they're 18. Do you think there's anything that
Is
needs
there?
to be
Is
done?
it, I haven't seen that. I mean, wow.
I can tell you, at least I know that for a fact.
I mean,
But
well, they're not supposed to, so they have to be using fake IDs or something because you can't, and that's on them at that point. The kids doing, God, that's so gross to say.
yeah, but
Um,
do you think there's any regulation in general? Let's go beyond the example I was just trying to paint there. Do you think there's anything that the government should be doing in regards to this industry?
um, no, I think they've already done enough damage as it is. It's pretty funny how adult entertainers have been getting tested like every 2-3 weeks for years and years and years, and they are freaking out over like COVID tests. It's so hilarious. I mean, we pay our taxes, we work like other people. I mean, I don't see why they do put all the limits on us that they do when we're exactly like your family, just happen to be a little bit more open sexually.
Yeah, and you know what? It is work at the end of the day. I
Hmm.
don't always love the job that I'm doing, and I don't think we love it all the time in any industry. But I think that's a great place to take a break here. In the second part, as I said before, we're going to talk about what kind of drove you into the Andrew Yang campaign during the 2020 cycle, and what do you think needs to be happening for the movement, and what needs to hopefully be happening this fall. So we'll take a quick break. Join us in part two. Okay, we're back in our second part of our conversation with Mia Rose. In our first part of the conversation, we got to talk to Mia about, the sex work industry as well as general, topics around women's empowerment. But I wanted to now transition because, Mia, the thing that kind of brought us together is, we had this commonality of supporting Andrew Yang. And I'd love to just kind of ask you, what was your first moment being exposed to Andrew Yang? And did you like what you saw at first, or did it take time?
I remember it was during one of the first debates of that he did, and I was like, who the hell is this Asian guy who's offering money to people? I like thought he was buying votes, and then he started making sense with just a few things that he was actually able to, get across during the debates. I'm pretty sure you remember them
Yeah.
being pretty lackluster. Um,
He
not,
did not get to
his.
speak a lot.
He did
Yeah.
not, yeah. And Yang speaks, but so I looked into it, and I just could not believe how nice he was, and how the whole group, that the Yang gang, is nice. Oh my God, they're beautiful people. Everyone. I've never had a bad interaction up until just recently, which was I feel like some people that are new to the Yang gang, they don't really understand everything yet, and I'm sure they'll get there. We all were, a little defensive at some point, I think. So you can feel attacked pretty easily, but you just got to be accepting, open and accepting.
So I'd love to ask you. Kind of alluded to there's a little bit of a transition period for the newbies, and maybe even a little bit of a difference in the Yang Gang since you kind of discovered it last summer. How do you feel things have changed? Do you think the movement is going in the right direction overall?
Oh yeah, I do. I absolutely think it's going in the right direction. I'm really happy to have Yang still speaking like he does with a ton of people, and he tweets daily. I mean, he's a really important person, and he is so positive, and that's something we lack so much of. And so it's hard when people come and they're used to defending what they believe is right, and then you get to the Yang Gang, and it's just everyone's so accepting. It's really hard to understand how everyone can be so goddamn nice. Um, but that's the way it is.
And I'd love to just ask, how do you think we can kind of keep that kind of almost cultural element of like this tolerance? Because I think a lot of people that I've gotten to talk to are concerned that because we're not all, united in trying to get Yang himself elected, that there's going to be some like fragmenting. How do you think we try to keep this movement alive without Yang, running for another office? Because, the next time he's likely to run is probably 4 years or longer from now.
I mean, he still has a voice, pretty large. I mean, what he does, like the on CNN, like I feel like we just got to keep powering through. I think we'll make it. The Humanity Forward is a really great thing, and maybe it'll get some more. I feel like it needs to be on more global level to be heard because you don't really hear much about it with him not running. So I don't know how to answer that. I'm sorry.
Yeah, no, I think you're right. There is definitely moves that can be made to, make it grow more. But I wanted to ask, was it just the draw of the $1,000 a month that kind of got you on board, or is it,
Not
the
even. That
culture?
was
Like,
not even it.
yeah, what was that thing that said, he seems like an interesting guy? You said you saw him at the first debate. What was that moment where you're like, okay, he's not just interesting, I'm going to support him?
When I googled him, I came up with the Joe Rogan podcast, and after I watched that, I was like, "Holy shit, I'm Yang Gang. That's what I'm. That's what I am." And I just started. I remember that whole day was like dedicated to researching him. It wasn't even like I wanted to. It just kind of I couldn't stop. Like
Yeah.
he's so interesting, and he whatever he says makes sense. It's just and he connects with people on like a different level. It was so sad when he stopped running, but I feel like he'll have his time, but hopefully right now we can all just get behind Biden and, get Trump out of office because this guy is whack.
Yeah, no, I wholeheartedly agree with you. Was Yang the first like person who got you like interested in politics? Did you have
Uh-huh.
any previous candidates beforehand?
Not like Yang. No, I actually voted for Trump in 2016, sadly. I and then what I saw okay, so Trump was everything that or Yang was everything that I had hoped Trump could be
Mm.
because he was not a politician and I thought everything was going to be different, make America great again. So I went behind this whole and it was all false. It was all false. Just he's just been misleading and misrepresenting and just lying the whole time. So I really felt like Andrew Yang was the answer after that huge mistake. And I mean, that was a huge mistake on my part. But
So I'd love to ask, obviously, I think a lot of people who came to support Andrew Yang didn't want like a career politician and felt like there was a needed disruption of the status quo. What makes you so distrusting of politicians, and what do you think was fundamentally broken that we needed to, make America great again?
I don't actually know. That's a really tough thing to answer because I didn't think that it wasn't never great, but I just thought that there was a lot of poverty and things that there was never a non-politician in the White House, right? Like that just doesn't happen. So I figured, hey, if America's still kind of fucked up, like if I cuss, I'm sorry.
No, yeah, you
And
can of course cuss.
okay, I thought it was pretty fucked up still. I mean, there's a lot of people that are poor that are unable to,
Yeah.
feed their kids, feed themselves. I mean, we're starting to not get married anymore. We're starting to not have kids because we can't afford to, and that's wrong. So I figured a non-politician maybe would get in there and take their heads out of their ass and figure it out, but that was not the case, and it just made it worse for everyone.
Yeah, no, I've heard that sentiment a lot back in 2016. I'll admit I didn't vote for Hillary Clinton myself. I happened to be in a safe blue state, so I was like, you know what, I'm going to vote third party because you're right. It feels like a lot of these status quo politicians who have been there for 30 plus years just are checked out of what the pain is in the economy out there. And I think we've certainly seen that during, the ongoing crises that we've had around the country, both
What
health
is that?
wise and economic.
M- MSNBC or whatever said that like they saw the higher end minimum or medium families is like 400,000 a year. Like, what the hell are
Yeah,
these
that was
people making? Like,
CNBC. I saw that today. That was so out of touch. I happen to live near a big city area. I live near the New York City metropolitan area, and I will tell you, 400K is a lot of money. It puts
It's
you
a
in the
lot,
top
yeah.
2%. And, I think we can safely say you're probably wealthy if you're in the top 5%. We could even extend it further. But like when you're in the top 2%, definitively, you're definitely wealthy. And so obviously, one of the things we talked about was universal basic income. But what do you think are some of those other things that need to be addressed to just help poverty in general?
That help poverty. I mean, I think ranked choice voting would be really, really helpful for everyone. Because then we wouldn't feel so like at each other's throats for elections, and you wouldn't feel like you have the segregation of colored people and oh, can't think of the term. I think that would help. Okay, and then getting rid of the penny. He had so many different policies
Yeah.
that were just fucking crazy, and would help. It would help so many people, but
It
you never
really
see
did
it. It's
make
all
it.
clouded.
Yeah, he really did by going to that like small level of detail, like abolishing the penny. It gave you the impression that he's thought everything through.
Right,
He's even gone to the
exactly.
small stuff. So
And I mean, nothing that he said was like that was negative for anybody. I mean, it wouldn't hurt anybody to do anything that he did or he talked about. I mean, it would, and I don't see why that's a problem with people, right? I mean, if it's going to help everyone, where's the problem?
do you think that like helped him overall? Because I think, we were talking about how he did not get a lot of speaking time during the debates. And it seems like the debates were naturally incentivized to give whoever was willing to fight someone more speaking time. Do you
I mean,
think Yang was right to try and keep this kind of calm, positive demeanor the whole way through?
I think it's just who he is.
Yeah.
That I mean, he's just a very calm, likable guy. But I guess that, like you said, they want to go for these fighters and these stupid one-liners, and like they have for a long time. But I mean, look at who's in the office right now. Like, isn't that like enough? Haven't we had enough of those? I really feel I should try to take other people a little bit more seriously, because we could have had Yang. We could have had Yang.
Yeah, I wholeheartedly agree with you. I'd love to ask you, as you mentioned before, you had previously supported Donald Trump.
Mm.
What has kind of convinced you at this point that Joe Biden's the right person now?
Who else am I going to vote for? I mean, I literally want like a yard sign that says voting for Biden because there's no more Yang. Like, I
Yeah,
mean, I'm gonna go for. I just trust Andrew Yang to think about everybody's well-being, and I will vote whoever as long as it's not for Trump again. Like, this has been the biggest nightmare of like 3.5 years ever. I have never in my wildest
yeah.
dreams would have thought that like anything would happen the way it has.
Yeah, I think a lot of people were trying to hope for that chaos to almost shake things up and get DC in line, but it just has caused chaos in return. And
I
you know what? I am so like you in that regard that I think Andrew Yang was definitely someone who persuaded me to come to Joe Biden because I told you I didn't vote for Hillary Clinton in 2016. I'm not a huge fan of these establishment politicians, but I think everyone kind of getting in line with Joe Biden, Yang. I previously supported Bernie Sanders as well. All of them just coming around and saying, okay, we got to kind of get back to some normalcy before we can move on to progress. Really
agreed.
sold me. Do you think like there's anything Joe Biden should be doing better? Like, I'm not here to say I'm like the biggest Biden supporter in the
No, yeah,
world.
me either. But it is what it is, right? We got what we got, and I no, I'm not the biggest fan of him either. I mean, not that I'm not a fan. I just really, really, really loved Yang. I loved everything about him, and I know that's how some people are with their candidates, right? You had your Warren supporters and all these people. And I remember when I went to go vote for him, and I forget what it's called, early voting. What is it?
Was,
Well, I don't
was
remember
it
what it's
early
called
voting? What
for your
state did you
state,
get to vote? What state did you get to vote for him in?
Nevada
Okay, yeah. So you
caucus, I
actually
was
got a
maybe. I don't
chance
know.
to vote for him. Yeah, that was right after he dropped out. That must have been interesting. Like, how'd you feel?
No, it was like right before. I think right before. Oh no, he dropped out, right? And they're like, oh, but he's not in the race anymore, so you shouldn't vote for
Yeah,
him. I got like shamed when I went to the polls. I remember it was horrible. I was like, well, I don't care because he's on the damn ballot, so I'm gonna vote for him because I love him.
yeah. No, you
But
know
I
what? I
mean,
did the same
yeah,
thing in New Jersey. I guess by my point though, it was the race was far over. Even Bernie Sanders had dropped out at that point. But do you think Yang should run again in 2024, or do you think we should, like, be patient?
120%. He is so freaking great. I will always press for him, and I will always vote for him. If I see him on the ballot, that's going to be my vote. Like, he's a lovely person. So is his wife and his kids. There's nothing bad to say about these people. And I feel like Trump's laundry list of just horrible, horrible things is out of control at this point. When Alexander Vindman got fired, I was like, oh my God, this country's dead. Like, this country is literally dead. Why would he fire a patriot, a war? Like, what is wrong with you, Trump?
It's
Holy.
all self-protection. Anyone who dissents even a little bit is basically gone. It's classic strongman tactics of a growing authoritarian. But I guess, Mia, my final question is, if you could have like Andrew's ear for a little bit, would you have any advice for him for the next run? Is there anything you want him to do differently in the next campaign?
I feel like he went from being an absolute no one to being really well known. And I feel like with that amount of growing, I feel like he'd be fine in 2024. I don't feel like I have any advice for him because he did so great. Like, I mean, if you look at the climb that he made,
Yeah.
that was a lot of track to gain in that short amount of time.
Yeah.
Although I really feel like the way they're counting those votes, like, isn't it kind of interesting how it got fucked up in the what was it? Idaho or
Yeah, the Iowa, they had the shadow
Iowa.
app.
Yeah, and the one, yeah, I just thought it was like pretty convenient, and it sucked. It really made me kind of like lose my confidence there for a while. But
Mhm.
I would never tell him to do anything different because he's great.
Yeah.
Do I sound like the biggest fangirl? That's so stupid.
No, I mean it's warranted, but I don't know. I have some things I'd obviously like him to change, but you're absolutely right. The man did tremendously in his first campaign, going from quote unquote a random man to someone who was in the top 6 overall is very impressive. And if I was there the whole way through, he's constantly proved me wrong in certain things that I think he's doing off. So he'll probably prove me wrong on some of the things I'm thinking now. Mia, I love getting to talk with you today. Is there anything that you want the people to check out there, Yang Gang and non-Yang Gang alike, that you have going on?
Just what I do for work. It's onlyfans.com/Mia Rose XXX, and yeah, I respond to everybody. I do daily content, and that is what I do full time.
Okay, well, people, please feel free to check that out if that's something that you would like to watch.
And if you're over 18, please think.
Yes, and that you're over 18. We want to make sure of that too. Well, Mia, I am so thankful that we got to have this conversation today. I hope you have a great rest of your evening and week.
Thank you. I will talk to you some other time.
It sounds great to me. Thank you so much for watching today's episode of The Hill of Roses. We hope you enjoyed the conversation. If you did, please let us know by subscribing to our channel, liking today's video, and sharing the video with your friends. Also, if you want to be notified, please make sure you hit the bell when you subscribe. Finally, if you want to find more of our network's content, please go to thehillofroses.com. With that being said, we love y'all for helping the movement grow, and we hope you're staying rosy out there.